And good morning, colleagues. Oh, it's masculine morning. Hello, Adrian. Hello, Dougster. Dougster, I'll just do the sound check as I always do in full paranoia. You can hear me, brother?
Yep.
Oh, I'm excited. That's fantastic. And Adrian, you're back in a different location with a new haircut. It's all happening, Adrian. How are you, brother?
Good. Yeah, no, well, thanks yourself.
Oh, great. How are you feeling? How's the change been? Because obviously that's a huge change in movement. It's more than movement, it's intellectual and psychological, etc.
It is, but it's only for 2 weeks, so heading back to Kiribati soon.
Yeah, it's a hard life, isn't it, mate? No, I mean that quite seriously. Not as like off to Kiribati, you lucky bugger, which of course all of us do think as well. But also, Adrian, it's hard to sort of be moving
Yeah,
between
it is. It
locations and
is
places, mate.
a while to reset, even when it's just a short trip. But yeah, it takes a couple of days for me to get back into the research space writing wise. But yeah, I'm here. But speaking of haircuts, Gay is looking very nice.
Very nice. Very nice.
It's a ponytail. Thank you, Adrian.
It's all
I told the hairdresser that I needed to look good because I was doing an online presentation, so she just sheared me like a sheep.
right. I tell you what, it is sharp though, isn't it, Adrian? I'm very impressed. Obviously, we'll go to our fashion advisor to the stars. We'll go to Kylie just to do a sort of a check on hair, because obviously I'm not the person, because I've had the same hairstyle for 37 years probably. Anyway, so Carl's, yes. What your confirmation of gay style, please, madam?
Definitely. Even with a pullback in a ponytail, short hair suits you, darling.
Oh, thank you. I've had long hair since I was 19. I don't get them cutting all the way, but thank you.
Yeah, no, very sharp, very fantastic. And look, funny, Jen, it is lovely to have Jen back from the Starship Enterprise, or indeed the Death Star. I think it's the Death Star. Jen, I was thinking about you this morning. How are you, superstar?
Look, I've been absent from these Friday mornings because I was committed to doing something else on Fridays, mostly last year. But flew through my COC with some great feedback. Since then, I've had 3 trips over to Nhulunbuy, 2 guising as a relief teacher to get funded and paid to go over there, and 1 under my own steam. So finishing off my ethics, and I had a fantastic week in Yirrkala practicing using Otter AI to do some practice recordings of interviews and conversations. So yeah, looking for some advice of anyone that's playing in that space at the moment, if they've used Otter AI for interviewing.
So I'm terribly excited by this. Now, Jen, we'll start there. Obviously, we're always open for questions. There's 57,000. The desk is covered with the requests that we have received through the week. # no pressure, everybody. But we always start with your questions, and we'll start with Jen. And obviously, Adrian, we've got a whole area we need to discuss. I didn't know if you'd be in this week, so I've got the Adrian card as well. But Jen, are you happy? And Gay, are you happy if we start with an AI conversation? Gay, you happy if or you want to go straight into AI? Oh, Gay, talk about AI, mate. Go, mate.
No, I wasn't talking about AI. I have another question. That's fine. Start with.
Oh, great. Well, let's start there. So it's all happening. So let's go with our Jen, who we've missed terribly. Now, Jen, as you know, Liam and I have been talking about in Digital Office Hours AI, and I've been researching it for a couple of years. I haven't been sort of doing what everyone's doing. It's like I have three lines of content. Let me run a public seminar, which has been sort of anyone else notice the AI stuff? It's like I have a thought bubble. Let me run a seminar. So I've been reading the research literature on it, and as some of you may know, on our channel on CTU, I presented the first thing for training for supervisors on AI about how to manage it as a research integrity matter. So helping supervisors, and I suppose helping students, it's there for you to listen to so you know what I'm telling the supervisors, but just rendering it as a diagnostic to help students on the way through. So not treated as, you've used AI, you must leave the program, it's not that. It's part of the milestones and a diagnostic. So it is being used with care. Now, Jen, you've just raised something truly magnificent there about using it as a training protocol before you get into an interview process. So you're actually asking questions and AI is responding and you're checking it that way?
Oh, no, I'm just using the record feature that we use for our meetings here on the phone app.
Yeah.
And I sat down with someone I'm very comfortable with. I knew that this person had a slight accent. I knew that she'd be using quite a few words that weren't in English, just to see how this went. And it obviously made some terrible mistakes, but it's so quick and easy to fix. If I see the transcript in gobbledygook, I click on it and it's that person speaking that word that was mistranscribed. And it's right there. It also gave me a summary of our conversations, and it had the audacity to give me a task list as well at the end. So that was quite cute.
The digital overlords are taking
Yes.
over our lives. Look, Jen, it's funny. I had a conversation, I think it was with our Piper yesterday morning. Big shout out to Piper Bell, whose survey is taking over the world. Those of you that have seen that on social media, she's now in the hundreds of completed surveys 4 days in, which is remarkable. But Jen, I said to Piper, really, transcription should be enabled by AI at the moment. I'm very comfortable with that, noting that the human is asking the questions and that a human is answering the questions, a transcription is configured and a human verifies and checks that. I think that's absolutely of no issue at all. And Jen, in terms of your methodology, log what you've done. I said this to Piper as well. Log the process in the chapter of this is how it was used. Firstly, that's a way to manage research integrity, manage research misconduct, and it's also incredibly innovative. So I don't see any concerns with that at all. I think that's great. And for colleagues who are thinking about using AI in different ways, what I would advise is, particularly for our CDU crew that have milestones, make sure how you're using it is logged in granular detail. And present it to one supervisor, present it to the random dean, and present it at the milestone. So therefore, it's full transparency. If anybody has any issues with regard to academic integrity or research integrity, it can be raised and the feedback can be actioned. You with me? So Jen, I think that's tremendous. I think that's right. And remember what happens with most transcriptions, it's often sent out to a third person. So I'm sorry, in some ways, if a human is running the interview, it's transcribed by AI, and then the same human that did the interview is verifying it. Isn't that great? Isn't that good?
Yep. The only questions I've got, and one of the people I was working with for these practice conversations and interviews, she said, what's the sort of digital safety on this? And from my understanding that there's a encryption involved, and you do have the option to load it up to the system to help teach the system more, but I haven't done that. But I've just got to I'll probably just write to them and ask, because I've tried to look on their website, but I haven't got enough information. So I'll probably just flick them an email and just say, can you explain in very simple terms how safe these conversations are and what can be done to make sure that they're absolutely watertight.
Great. And so, colleagues, you see what Jen's done there. So obviously part of what is required with ethics is absolute control of the circulation of information. So it cannot be shared with another human. It has to be encrypted, placed in a location that is also encrypted, that's, outside of your laptop.
Jen, maybe use the word private, not safe, because safe can be misinterpreted.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
I love the different perspectives.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jen,
definitely privacy. Good word to use. Yeah.
That's a great point. Well done, Bree. And so, Jen, it's about, and also logging it. See, part of it is not only the doing, but the logging of the behavior. And that's what ethics and integrity is. It's asking for robust feedback. It's acknowledging colleagues and opening yourself up for transparency for review, right? And so if you're doing that, and say someone goes, look, I'm uncomfortable, as Bree just said there, I think the word safety is challenging, or the word discomfort is challenging, and you go, Bree, thank you very much. That's brilliant. So let's talk about, therefore, encryption and the way in which the movement of data sets is protected. That's accurate and clear. And Bree, you've just enacted some beautiful research integrity expertise there. How are we going, Jen?
Great.
Great, and I'll just catch up, Professor Quentin. We're having a bit of an AI conversation, Jamie Darlin, one, about the use of AI, particularly in transcription of interviews and so forth, and how one ensures research integrity through the iterations of that methodology.
Okay, interesting.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So we've been doing work on it for a couple of years. So Jen, that's helping me, and colleagues, as you're testing it, please feel free to bring that every week to our digital office hours, and colleagues watch this around the world. Feel free to offer a commentary, because we're iteratively trying to create research integrity and make sure that Jen on the Death Star, she's not, that the Death Star doesn't actually start running us, right? Good on you, Jen. That's been, anything else to help you with that? That's a brilliant start, Jen.
Yeah, no, look, I'll be a regular Friday drop-in from now on. So I'll let you know what I find out during the week.
Oh, I'm excited. So do keep us informed, because as I said, this is about a community of practice as well, Jen. I'll use that phrase because I mean it. So this is how we ensure that we are abiding by the Australian Code of Research Conduct. And this is how we're ensuring your methodology is sound that's presented for examiners. It's a great testing ground for that. It's like a sort of micro Viva, really. It's brilliant. Good on you, Jen. Oh, thanks, Jen. Yeah. Should we?
No, I feel really guilty because I've just lobbed in from being absent for months, and I get the first question almost. So I feel like I'll just disappear into the background and let the regulars jump up.
No, Jen, everybody is welcome. This is one of the few places left that are highly democratic. We have a disintermediated, deterritorialized gig. I know what's happening in the world. It seems like democracy is a long way away, but we are here to support and care for each other human. If you breathe, you have rights. You know that's the rule here. You're the best, mate. Okay, well let's see. Great. Oh, I'm excited. What a way to start. Bloody hell. Okay, so Gay, #no pressure. Where are you going to take us from the Death Star, Gay? Where are we going?
I'm going to take you to getting paid for presentations. So, okay. I have now given my family history and the big picture presentation twice. It has been very favourably accepted on both occasions, and now I've been offered to do it for the Society of Australian Genealogists, and they want to know, do I charge a speaker's fee? And I have no idea.
The answer is always yes.
All right.
So
much.
yeah, okay. So look, Gay, this is exciting. I love this. This is, yeah. So what are we doing, Kylie? Are we doing this one? Are we doing this one? We're coin. So Gay, look, academics, I'm a Gramscian, I'm an organic intellectual. Josh, lovely to see you. I'm a Gramscian, I'm organic intellectual. And look, you make decisions to do freebies, right? You make decisions that this is a women's shelter, and I'm going to go offer commentary and help and support about women in life on International Women's Day, right? So that's a great freebie, because any money that you're accepting for that is coming out of the mouths of remarkable women that are on their journey, right? So you don't want to do that. But also, Gay, we are academics, we are professionals, and this is our job. And this is an editor. There's plenty of people that would like editing jobs for free as well, but this is a profession, and that's why the editing organisations provide a benchmark and a figure. Now, most of you, in fact, there's no one that's known me through my whole life. If Jackie Hewitt was in, she'd be laughing. But Gay, I used to do all my talks for free. When I was a young whippersnapper till about the age of about 26, 27. And I used to do these enormous gigs to thousands of people for free. And then a great mate of mine by the name of Grant Stone, who was the head librarian at Murdoch University, said to me, Tara, stop doing this. And he was like a much older guy. And I said, why, Grant? And he said, they are spending more money on coffee and muffins to hear you speak than they're paying the speaker that they're supplying the coffee for. Charge them. So from that point on, morning, beautiful Megan. So from this point on, I've charged, right? And so you know, I call it a freemium model, Gay. So you might want to have some speeches that you do for free for community organisations. So libraries and librarians, that's my freemium model. I give the talks away for free. But for everybody else, speaking is my life. So at the moment, I'm a Dean of Graduate Studies, and I don't do as many of the professional talks as I normally do. But when I'm not a dean in a role like this, I do about 40 or 50 keynote speeches a year, and I charge between $1,000 and $6,000 for a speech. Now, when I started, Gay, I was charging about $200 for a speech. So I think $200 is for, as you've said, the organisation you're talking about is about right, because that's respectful of your time. And also, Gay, if they're getting it for free, they treat you like rubbish too, with the greatest respect. So if they're getting it for free, look at Lorraine, she's gone, hell yeah. When they're getting it for free, it doesn't matter. You're just there, you're there to be of service to them, but they're forgetting it's work involved. And Gay, I don't know how you do talks, but talks take me about 50 or 60 hours to research, about 30 hours to write, and about 20 or 30 hours to do the PowerPoint. So they're getting a very, very good deal. And remember that members and membership for these organisations, they've paid a figure every year for speakers. So, you know, when I'm doing a gig and people are paying $5,000 to register to that conference, then they're gonna have $5,000 as a fee from me, right? Because people are coming to hear me speak, right? So, Gay, is that helping? So, yes, be confident, have an invoice. So, give yourself configure one of those nice Microsoft invoices that is your speaking fee. I would, if you're getting into the groove, I'd start with 200 and give yourself a deadline that by Christmas you're at $1,000 a gig, Gay. What do you reckon?
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, Lorraine, do you want to speak on this? Because obviously Lorraine was straight in there going,
Sorry, I'm so expressional, and I just get so connected to everybody. No, absolutely, totally agree, because, you know, obviously there's your research time, but there's usually emails going backwards and forth, phone calls that can be quite lengthy. You know, some people can be quite demanding on time. All of that is factored into the fee structure that you have. That's those sort of hidden hours that you spend doing needs to be factored in. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Oh, well done, Lorraine. And also summoning my 96-year-old father, Kevin. He used to get so frustrated when I used to be doing all these talks all around the Perth metropolitan area. And he said, you're not getting paid anything for this. You're spending $30 in fuel. Spending $30 in fuel. What, I mean, Jess, because I mean, this is, you know, that generation of Australian working class men is like, why are you subsidising them with fuel? What's going on? Right. And so all of that makes sense. As Lorraine said, if you do full economic costing on what it costs to do a magnificent keynote that people will remember for the rest of their lives, then work out the value of that. Is that
one more comment?
Go on, Lorraine, and then we'll go to our John.
Thank you. Just coming back to Jenny earlier, I used a professional transcription service for my interviews that I finished towards the end of last year. So I'm just going through all of that now. You know, I've used NVivo, etc., etc. Whilst I would say the transcription, very good. Yeah. There were, and I'm discovering several errors. So when I'm listening to the audio, all of the research participants had, I would say, apart from one who is English, very strong Australian accents. And even there's so much I can't understand spellings because, so what I try to do in the interviews, when they use terms like our NASHO, I would say, by that, do you mean National Service? To help the transcriber, because I knew all these acronyms and sort of colloquialisms, that's a difficult word this early in the morning, that they probably, but the NAS, hilarious. As I'm going through this data, honestly, and I'm cutting, you know, and pasting it into the different parts of the chapters, I'm leaving all that in because that's so, to me, rich and beautiful that I want that to. So I suppose I'm just thinking with that AI, will that also capture that richness and not make alterations? Anyway, that's just my
Lorraine. I think that's good. Go, Jen. Talk to me.
I suppose one of the things I'm really interested in is because I'm working with people at Yirrkala. So the conversations will be largely in English, but there will be lots of Yolngu terms and some conversation happening as well. And it's really interesting. One of the things that I want to be able to try and capture in there is sometimes the pause that we're comfortable with in those conversations that we're often not in standard white fella conversations, because you can sit there for 20 minutes while someone tries to decide the best way to explain something to you. But just a little side thing, the thing I have enjoyed so much is listening to these conversations and the laughter that's in there, so much so I'm sitting on my son's veranda laughing at myself and one of the participants, just cacking myself, and him and his housemates have come out and said, "What are you doing?" And then I've got them sitting around listening to it and laughing as well. And if I can hang on to one thing through this research journey, is the joy that we're having in the early days. And I hope that hangs in all the way through. Just remind me when I'm sitting here looking miserable that we used to laugh a lot at the beginning.
Look, and Jen, that's right. At the beginning, the first year of a PhD, hashtag no pressure, Doug, the first year of a PhD, as my late husband used to describe it, you know, it's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful life. It's like a person and knowledge and journeys, and it's exciting. And then, of course, it becomes a bucket of vomit in the final 4 months. And so we're all heading to the bucket of vomit. So it's always better if you know the vomit is coming because you enjoyed the first year. But just can I say, in terms of research integrity, and sorry to go there about AI, but what you've got to do, the gift of, and this was when I did oral history work, my goodness me, in the 80s and the 90s, that, and again, the early work being done with Indigenous men in particular, and the rendering of their testimony into inverted commas standard English. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a research integrity breach. You know, I know that was the way things were done at that point, but it is recognizing and respecting the silence, the cadence of language, logging the silence. And as Kylie said, I mean, if Kylie and I were being recorded, it'd be yeah, nah, yeah, nah. Yeah, nah, yeah, nah. And yeah, nah would go on for about 45 minutes. And, you know, and that's the nature of our relationship. Like, yeah, nah, nah. And you need that patterning, right? And Jen, one other point to consider, putting on my sonic media researcher hat, is you may also like to consider the actual presentation of the sonic files as part of your digital doctorate. Remember, the digital doctorate is now porous, so the sonic files can be sent to the examiner to listen in real time as well. Well, I'm getting a nod. Thanks, Jen. And for me, if you're interested in authenticity, if you're interested in testimony, the sonic reality is significant there. Oh, I get a nod.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to think of ways to sort of incorporate some of that into presentations, because it loses so much of its warmth and the passion sometimes coming out of first language into English and then into text. So it would be nice to put the two against each other just as a presentation strategy.
It's multimodality, and it's also rendering us all academically literate to be open to the difference, open to the alternative ways of thinking and being. So it's also about, to be frank with you, in a post-colonial, neo-colonial environment, it's about giving people the opportunity to sit in the discomfort and not being able to leave the discomfort. And sonic media is a great marinade for discomfort. So something for you to ponder, Jen.
Thank you.
Who knew we'd be having this fun this morning? And look, our favorite, our light of our lives. We know we have two fabulous quant humans on this call. They change our lives. Legendary Josh, talk to me, Josh. How are you, brother?
Really good. I think everyone here is probably more qualified than me to talk about this, Jen. But I was just going to say, I did a little bit of qualitative research back in the day where we interviewed students and did some transcripts up. And when we were transcribing, we were trying to figure out what to do. And at the time, I think we thought about using the Microsoft Word dictation function. So obviously things are a lot better now. But when we were trying to figure that out, we ended up doing similar to what you did, where we did sort of a trial interview with someone, and we used the dictation function to see what it could do. And then we also did a second discussion or a second interview with someone else as a mock. And we did that from scratch. And then from there, we were able to figure out what are the limitations with this dictation function. So what are those sort of naturalized transcription components that aren't coming through? And then we were able to decide whether we were going to take those bits and put them into the automatically transcribed document, or whether it was going to be easier to do it from scratch. And for us, it was obviously easier to do it from scratch.
Yeah, one of the things I'm interested with Otter AI is apparently it learns as it goes, but I don't know whether that is beholden on you uploading it into their system. So I've got some digging to do and some playing to do. But yeah.
Yeah, Jen, yes, it is, I believe. It's like the reason, for example, at CDU College, we decided to use Authenticate rather than Turnitin is because Turnitin basically colonizes your language. So it has your thesis and it goes, and then the system learns. Whereas Authenticate, it's your work. The system does not upload it. It represents integrity to the process. Now, the nature of AI, the bit of AI, there's lots of AI that concerns me, but I'm sitting and looking at the qual quant research before I offer sort of any great commentary. But the learning of the system is of concern to me because it breaches copyright. So a whole series of great authors around the world, and maybe some people on this call, have had our stuff fed into this system without respecting our intellectual property, our copyright, to enable Hal from 2001, open the pod back doors, Hal. Can't do that, Dave. To allow Hal to continue to learn. So that's a line for me, because that's a breach of IP and copyright. So I would very much control the movement of your work, Jen. Oh,
I was going to say, watch this space.
Oh, I'm excited.
I'll let you know what I find out this week.
Oh, look, it's exciting. It's fantastic. And again, there's so many things we could talk about. We'll just make sure there's any further like live questions. So we've got beautiful Magella in, we've got Rach in, we've got beautiful Maeve in, we've got Liam in. So any other live question? Oh, Josh is back again. Josh.
Yeah, sorry, I did want to ask something a bit unrelated. So I'm so sad I missed last week when we were talking about book chapters, etc. And I have a related question. I'm glad that Jamie's in, because I wanted to hear the two ends of the spectrum and see if you two have ever had a discussion about book reviews in the harder end of the sciences. So I know book chapters are a thing in the sciences, but book reviews, just to give context, I'm supervising or co-supervising a couple of medical students through their kind of research placement modules. And one particular student, she's doing some great work. She's found some really innovative people and she's reading their books. And so I was looking everywhere for somewhere where she could put her book review, a good journal venue for that. And I look around myself for these things, but I've noticed compared to, say, education, for example, the health sciences, etc., I find it really hard to find places that accept book reviews that aren't invited or that aren't charging you $4,000.
Oh, we might have just lost a bit of Josh there, but can I? Oh, yeah. So Josh, we've got you, mate. Keep going. Finish the thought. They were charging $4,000. We had the capitalist moment.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on both ends of the disciplinary spectrums on how book reviews are received intellectually from that end, if they are seen as common practice, or if it's something very bizarre on a CV with someone from the sciences. Yeah.
So, Jamie, do you want me to start and you finish, which is the nature of our marriage? Let's do that. That's so funny. I'm trying to not laugh. Right. So that's so funny, Jamie Quentin. I'll be laughing about that for several days. Right. So, Josh, the book review, and remember, that's different from a review essay. So the book review is sometimes invited. So you know an editor, you got a mate who's an editor and they got a freebie book and they throw it in your direction, right? So that's about 1/4, 1/3 of the stuff that you get. There are journals, a lot of journals in the humanities that have a whole section in every single edition on book review. So in the high humanities, because the books matter, the book review is also quite a nice thing. But in terms of the credibility for the human writing the review, and remember, I've written a few. Can I say I wouldn't have written a book review in 15 years, and this will be important in a second. Obviously, I'm in a journal, right? Because Josh, what a book review does is it makes your name and career early on by providing a scaffolding. So here's a big name person that's written a book, and I'm a littler name person, and I will write a review of the big person in the book, right? So it's great. So your name gets known, and so whenever anybody searches for Joshua Riley, the famous Joshua Riley, then your name is sort of attached to Josh, because you wrote a review, right? So it's a nice scaffolding. It's also great because it keeps you at the cutting edge. You know what's going on. You have an opportunity to contribute to discourse through a book as punctuation. So in the high humanities for early career researchers, it's a great opportunity, and I would bite people's hands off. You get it in two ways. What I would do, Josh, I'd be a bit proactive. I'm not a bit of a hustler networker, you know, it's not my thing. But what I would do is, if there's a couple of journals in the high humanities social sciences that you like with book reviews, contact the book review editor. They're always listed in the editorial team, and go, hi, Magic Phil. This is my area of expertise. I see you're really looking at books in that area. I'm available to offer a review at any point, and I really welcome that opportunity. You know, thanks very much. So I'd be quite proactive. For early career researchers, it's a great move. And then the challenge then, Josh, is to know when, you know what, you're better taking the time you do for a book review and write your own stuff. But I'd say for the first 10, 15 years of your careers, break their legs, say yes, do it. Professor Quinn.
Okay. Thanks, Josh, for asking me my opinion on this, and I have a unique thing to offer. So I'll start by saying nice guys finish last. But that's a good thing. And I was going to say, I'm about to give you information that my wife may not even remember. So in my CV, I have a number of book reviews that I did when I was an early career researcher. And I did them for exactly the reason that Tara just described, which was an unusual thing in the sciences, okay? And it didn't happen through journals, and it didn't happen through Goodreads or anything like that. It happened through the monthly magazine of the Australian Institute of Physics. And the reason I did it was because I shared my office with the reviews editor, and he looked after me and I looked after him. I had a number of colleagues kind of go, who the hell is this guy and why is he reviewing all these books? But I did it for the exact reason that Tara described, right? When someone goes, oh, Jamie Quinton, I think I know that name from somewhere. They may not remember where they saw it, but they would have seen there was a review nearly every month or every second month of a book in the bi-monthly magazine of the Institute, right? And I did it. I stopped doing it around the 10-year mark of my career, actually. But I also wanted to add something too, and it comes down to how books are valued by your discipline area. Okay. Tara and I have this conversation all the time, because in the humanities, books are highly valued, and in the sciences, they tend to not be valued anywhere near as much as journals are, even though it's actually a joke when you think about it, right? Yeah. The amount of effort that goes into writing a book is incredible compared to writing a journal. The amount of effort going into a book chapter. So if you take the discussion we had last week about book chapters and talk about books, you can ramp it up even further, right? If you want to be known as an expert, a senior person in a field where you stamp your mark and say, put your flag in the ground and go, I'm an expert on this. If you publish a book on it, it's probably the smartest, fastest way of getting that position, right? That positionality. So I agree with Tara in terms of reviewing books. It's a great mechanism for you to stay forefront, keep reading, know what's happening in the field. And it can't hurt you in any way, because eventually you're going to be in a position where someone's going to say to you, what's actually happening in this field? And that's when they'll measure your expertise, right? So it's a good idea. If you can find a mechanism to make it happen, I strongly advocate that you find a way to do it.
Oh,
Awesome. And thank you both.
Go, Josh. Yeah,
I was just going to say, I've written a couple already, and I think it's achieved everything that both of you just said. I've been trying to get into the doctoral education scholarship area, and I've had 2 book reviews accepted into a few journals from there, and I found it's really good to improve your writing, actually. Like, I did some of my best writing in those book reviews. So yeah, but it came to when I'm supervising these students in the medical sciences, and I think it will be good to scaffold them. I was unsure if they really existed in the harder end, but hearing your experience, Jamie, is great. And I think I'll encourage them to continue with it.
Yep, and through the organisational publications, that's also a great option. Just two final points, Josh, to think about. One is the difference between sort of the short review, because reviews are, of course, 27 different things. There's 200-word reviews, and there is a review essay where you are situating an important book in the field. And I wrote a few of those. They were some of the last ones I did. And can I say, Josh, you know, in the humanities, they picked up a fair number of sites, can I say? So that's significant. And also one other stupid thing I forgot about 10 years of my life, because I am that old, is, who was it? Sage. Sage had a yearbook of critical and cultural theory. Now, I think Springer has one of those in the medical sciences, and you're hired to write this long chapter, and I'm talking about 18,000-word chapter, where you review all the books in a particular field each year. And I did that for 10 years. So I read everything in, what was my chapter? Australian cultural studies and media studies. So I read everything in that field and produced 18,000 words a year for 10 years. Now I was paid for it by the 1,000 words. We're back to Gay's point. When in doubt, get paid.
So I was going to say, the notion of paying to publish a book review is astounding, right? The person who wrote the book has a vested interest in your book review. You know, you could do some wheeling and dealing with them. But what Tara just described is something that I have not been aware of. And there's an interesting question, a follow-up question from me, which is the 18,000-word review of a series of books or a field versus a review article in that field. In the sciences, I would suggest the review article might get more traction, but I don't know.
Yeah, it will, Jamie. That's right. So I would do that. I was just mentioning this year's work in, because Springer, I think, has moved into that in medical sciences and health sciences. And look, was particularly used by librarians, colleagues. So instead of reading 100 books, they would read the review of 100 books and work out which ones they were going to buy when libraries were still funded.
Can I just offer my last 2 cents, and then I'll mute my microphone again? So the ecologists and the the zoology biologists would tell you that diversity is the key to a successful profile. So I would say the more diverse opportunities and experiences you try and put your hands into and do things in, the better your overall profile will be in the end.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, Josh, of adding headings to a CV, right? Every Sunday morning, I sit in my bucket of vomit with my CV, right? And I think, how can I add a new heading to my CV, right? So that's the thing about diversification. So, you know, I have a long CV, but there are lots and lots of headings of me going into different areas. So, you know, review essays, book reviews. So really diversified out. So it's not just a matter of articles. I know in the sciences, Jamie, you guys number the publications on the way through. So you can keep the numbers going, Josh, through the different headings, right? So it's not like you're going, I've got 5 review essays and then I've got 15. It's just keep numbering it, all right? They're all, people can sort out what they think is of value.
Awesome. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's great. It's great to hear that diversifying and trying new things is valued, because I think so often I get discouraged from that by people that are nowhere near as successful as Jamie, telling me that I need to stay on a very, very narrow path with things. And so, yeah, it's quite nice to hear that I can give myself permission to play around a bit.
Josh, mate, my line is, if you haven't done it, you don't speak on it, brother. You don't speak on it. If you haven't written a book, you need to shut the hell up, girlfriend. If you haven't written a review essay, you need to shut the hell up, girlfriend. If you've done it, you can speak to me. If you haven't done it, you need to go and have a nice cup of coffee and talk to your invisible friends, right? Cool. We've got a backup. We've got a backup. So beautiful Maeve talked to us. Oh, I'm loving the lemon. That's gorgeous, Maeve. That's refreshing as a colour. Good morning, Maeve.
Good morning. Thank you. So 2 things. The first quick one is I'm looking for a word for my milestone document that would be something like inventory or stock take, and I'm keen on both a noun and a verb. Because just to give it 2 seconds, I want to put like a current position, and I could call it that, but I'm looking for a better academic take on that word. So then, second thing, I have 20 days to go, people, to hand in my mid-candidature review everything. Oh, I'm not there yet. You are welcome to clap the day I tell you I've done it. Thank you, Doug, and Vita. So I thought I would ask yourself, Jamie, and the Hive Mind for tips on my last 20 days.
All right, that's great. Okay, just writing this down. Right, so the first thing is about the inventory and stock take. Firstly, I love those as words. I love those as words. They're fantastic words. But ask yourself, Maeve, if you're actually talking about a taxonomy, because whenever I think about an inventory, oh, look at the engineer. The engineer went straight to, is it a taxonomy? Kylie, do you want to just, you and I have a bit of a yeah, nah about taxonomy? So if it's a taxonomy, you are categorizing the data and labeling it on the way through. Kyle's obviously engineer, that's a humanities person doing engineering. Talk to me.
Yeah, I was going straight for what was in that asset management space too, and it's that taxonomy, hierarchical taxonomy. If you've had different, I know, it's like right up my alley. But yeah, it's that categorization of how you're going to split things out, and do they have high priorities, and yeah.
So it's, oh, I love that, Kyle's. So Maeve, is it a taxonomy that you're exploring?
It might be after this conversation. Well, I haven't. Gay laughed. I think what I'm trying to do in the milestone, I'm trying to use a range of ideas that have been discussed in the last 6 months to a year. So it includes book launches we've all been on, a range of other things like that, where I've been like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's a great idea. And in this sort of month before I hand something in, I don't think it should be, but it tends to be where I go, oh, I like that idea. I must put that in, that in. And so it's suddenly where a lot of things come together because I'm going to make them come together. Whereas in the time before that, it's been more like wavy or flowy or something.
Do some of those ideas then have subheadings? Because you talk about having a parent-child relationship.
Yes, multiple subheadings going on, Kyle's.
So you might talk around that parent-child connections and all that. So
yeah, multiple, many subheadings.
Almost like a work breakdown structure.
Is it?
In my element.
Is it? But Maeve, the point is, if it is a taxonomy, and that's the difference, and it comes from we're at Charles Darwin University, taxonomy, of course, Charles Darwin, and evolutionary biology uses it a great deal, because it's not just an inventory or a list, it is the relational list and the hierarchized list. Kyle, is that still resonant with engineering? Are you comfortable with that? That's more the bio gig.
Very much so. I think that's why I went that asset area, because I came from that science biology and loved that sort of connectedness.
Astronomy does.
So I'm going to say, can the head of fundamental science actually correct us all? So Professor Quentin.
I'm happy with that, but I was going to say astronomy does it too.
And of course, Mataranga Māori does it as well. Mataranga Māori creates a taxonomy of Māori ontology. So that's a great example. So, but Maeve, if you're using that, then it's not just a list or an inventory or a stock take. There's going to be a relationship between really each of the terms as such.
I think actually we're coming now to it is highly relational. I just hadn't really identified that, but when asked, I think it is highly relational, and I think taxonomy will nail it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And look, colleagues, we'll also answer beautiful Maeve's second one, tips on the last 20 days. Consistency, Maeve, and you've got to move beyond your comfort zone. I mean, when you, and I'm doing it as well. I've got huge deadlines in front of me. I'm reading about 500,000 words a week at the moment. # living the dream. And so you've got to push through it, because you get exhausted. And what happens when you're in this state is you think, I would really like to stop. And when you're that busy, what you have to do, Maeve, is you have to say, you know what, I have to do one more thing. I'm exhausted, but you know what, I've got to push through. And so what I always try and do, and poor Megan, of course, we'll talk about poor Megan in a second. Megan's had the week from hell, but you've done incredibly well, Megan. Third person. You're no longer an I, you are a third person, Megan. But can I say, and Megan has lived this. So Megan, if you want to speak to this, so the first thing you've got to do is you got to move. We used to sort of stopping when we're tired. Well, you can't stop. Sorry, it's late capitalism. It's terrible. and you just got to work through and finish. And if you don't, and you don't finish, there will be consequences. Straight to Megan.
Yeah, I've actually had a terrible month, like probably even 5 weeks. Anything that could go wrong has gone wrong in my life. And juggling all of the family issues with all of the PhD stuff has been horrific. And just so everybody's aware, I submitted my ethics and it bounced back with it, which was, I was okay with that. But there was a very short time frame of turnaround. So I had to stop everything else in my life. And I had to call on other people to come and help doing some things for me, walking the dog, you know, normal boring shit. And we ate shit too, just to get through it. So it absolutely was pushing through all of that to get the task done, and it's done. So thank you, Tara.
And it was signed off this morning. But Megan, that's that thing about peer review that we've talked about. When a third person looks at it, you know, these are, you know, because obviously you come from a social work perspective, your wonderful associate dean comes from a different disciplinary perspective, moving into psychology as well. So obviously there's a different lens on that. And so you turned that around in 24 hours. Now, it doesn't get more stressful than that. And of course, I signed it off for you this morning. All completed, fantastic. But, you know, that's what I'm saying, Megan, you had to push through. It was not pleasant,
Yeah, well, it was made more unpleasant by everything else that I'm holding in my head. So all of the personal stuff that we all have to deal with, I swear to God, I'm going to divorce my entire family.
Yes, obviously. Yes.
Yes. So that put the pressure on. But sometimes you just have to put your big girl blowers on and absolutely decide what is the most important thing. So for me, it was prioritizing. I've got to do this and I've got to do this. How do I do them both together? I call in help.
Yeah, I think that's excellent, Megan. And just any final advice because obviously you've done to great success a milestone. Any feeling about those 3 weeks before the document is due to everybody, darling?
Well, that's the time where people build the most internal pressure. Like it's at a deadline. We build internal pressure. So it's not just about managing the workflows. It's also about managing ourselves, our lives, and all of the emotions that come with that. It's a balancing act the entire time. And I say no, I cannot take on another thing all the time now. And I'm losing friends like you wouldn't believe, but that's absolutely okay. Yeah, because this is important.
Yeah, and you've heard me say, Megan Darling, when the buckets fall, or the bin, depending on your life and your day, when the bin's full, ain't nothing more going in the bin, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And look, we should probably go to Mary, who of course did her milestone, which we haven't heard anything, Mary. So is that good or bad? Are you all right? What happened, Mary?
Yes, it went very well, and it was a very inspiring thing to do. I got some really fantastic feedback, in particular from a member of the board of the Carry Carrot Corporation of the Indigenous area that I'm doing the research in. So he came along and gave me some really good feedback, and it was just generally very well received, and it was very inspiring. It's sort of like you do all this work for many, many months, and then you present it to people, and then you get this incredible feedback. It was very rewarding, actually.
Well, congratulations, Mary. I've been worried about you because I didn't see any mention of it in the digital environment. And I thought, oh boy. But no, I knew it would be magnificent because you're magnificent. So we're ready to go. But Mary, is there any advice that you would offer to Maeve for that crucial 3 weeks to go period? Obviously, we were with you through that 3 weeks. Anything you'd say?
Yeah, look, I think probably looking at what you have to do for Milestone 2, Maeve, it wasn't as much as what I had to do for my university. So really it was submitting the piece of writing and getting that right. That took months, the sample writing that I had to submit. But then the rest of it, I actually had written a whole document to back up my presentation, and my presentation was checked several times by my supervisors.
Nice.
And then I, as a secondary thing, suddenly thought, oh, what do I have to do online? Then I realised there's a form you have to fill in at my university that's not very long, and I had answered all the questions in the document I'd written to back up my presentation, so I just did that. So it hasn't been that hard. They're not really looking at my university to see personal development stuff or what you've presented at and stuff like that. Although I did mention a couple of things anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure we're developing the whole human, Mary, and offer advice, because obviously most of our students, we have a huge number of students over the age of 40. So we've got to make sure they're cared for. There's multiple opportunities to express what's going well, what's going badly. If they're going well on the swings and not well on the roundabouts, they can talk about it, right? And also because research integrity is a big deal here, we get the documents, as much of the thesis as possible, checked through Authenticate as well, to, if there are problems, we can address it early.
Yeah, I certainly had to put my writing through. We don't use Authenticate. It's something else.
Turn it in.
Turn it in. That's it. Yes, I had to go through Turnitin. And you have to provide that proof that have to provide the report that it's gone.
No,
of it. So, but I think at my university they're probably a little bit not exactly sure what you're supposed to do for a milestone too. It's a little bit foggy, I think, and so you do have to do a piece of writing. So that seems to be the most definite thing. Yes,
well, Mary, well said. We try and really backwardly map it. So the midpoint, we don't want a person to waste a year of their lives. If there's a catastrophic problem, we try and address it at this point rather than, a week to go and people go, oh, why are we in this situation? Sorry, Jamie, and then we'll go to beautiful Jess. Go, Jamie.
Sorry for pushing in, Jess. I just wanted to quickly say, as someone who has supervised students through Milestones and been a milestone assessor myself, for the mid-candidature, Maeve, there are two things I kind of want to see. The first one is I want to see something that's a complete piece of work that's been done, because it'll show me what you're capable of with the rest of the document. It's better to do that than to have 5 incomplete pieces of work. The second thing I wanted to say was the mid-candidature. If you want to nail the mid-candidature, the smartest thing to do is have an idea of what the finish line looks like and how you're going to get there.
Oh, yeah.
If you touch on the final milestone in the mid-candidature review, it makes it very straightforward, right? So the key questions are the same questions we keep putting to everyone. What is the SOC? What's the significant original contribution to knowledge? Do you know what you're doing? Show us you know what you're doing. Show us that you've nailed whatever your methodology is for your investigation. Show us that you know what's required and what's left, and that you're scaffolding everything back to that SOC, right?
Yeah.
If you can demonstrate all those things in the mid-candidature review, you should be fine.
Spot on. Academic integrity and research integrity too. I assess the reference list at this point. At this point, if there's a problem, the reference list is a proxy for reading. But this is all
part of do you know what you're doing. I was just saying, this is all part of do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, do you know what you're doing? It's a great question. Now, Jess, of course, who basically was dragged backwards through a hedge through her particular milestone and is now #living the dream. So Jess, you are living the dream. So Jess, what advice would you offer to Maeve in that sort of catastrophic 3 weeks before the material's due, mate?
Oh, I don't think I've got any advice to offer. I don't think I have anything really useful. I suppose I focused on the why is this important? Why is this really important? So for my confirmation of candidature, the methods was really unpacked. Like that, I suppose the panel, they want to give you feedback on stuff. So it was down to what surveys I was using, that sort of stuff became the really big questions. But yeah, I don't think I have much to offer. I think as long as you know what you're doing and why, like why is this important? That was the most important thing for me. And then if you've got time, really hone in on the methodology and make that really shiny and neat and clear.
Oh,
yeah. But also just look after yourself. Don't put so much. When we were talking before about, people were talking before about how I think it was Megan saying, oh, she's the PhD is the most important thing. And I think, you know what, my PhD is really, really important. But in the big scheme of things, the big picture, it's a piece of writing. Yeah. It's not worth my mental health. It's not worth my physical health. It's not worth my important relationships. So keeping that all in perspective, I think, is important too.
Oh, Jess, you're lovely saying that. You are tremendous saying that. And look, I want that to be true, Jess. I want that to be true. I want work and life balance. I want all the cliches. I want everything. I want everything. I want everything. The trouble is, I think that a PhD is not that, because it's got this look at the rain's face, because it's got this sort of medieval sort of origin to it. It doesn't give a damn about a work and life balance, you know. It is because at the end of the day, you've got this, and of course I'm about to do an outrider on the examiners, right? Because Jess, we focus on what we feel and the relationship with our supervisors and, you know, the assessors in a milestone, but actually you're doing all of this for two people that don't know you, don't care too much about you, and what they're doing is they're upholding international standards. So they're coming into this not to care about you at all. They wish you well, but they're assessing, have you reached what is required, the required quality assurance standard. So that does pressure you. I felt everybody's heart rate in the room go up then. My heart rate went up. It's stressful. It is, you've heard me describe examination as a dark art. So, because it is. Two people will have 3 years of your life in their hands. And it's not about you. And it's not about you and how you feel and your subjectivity. It's about the standard of knowledge. And that is stressful, Jess. So then the question is, what do you as a human, where do you put that knowledge? Where do you put that stress? And that's how you become successful. You find a way to let go of the knowledge and allow it to be assessed and be cool with that. Have I destroyed your life, Jess?
I really like that, what you said then about letting it go.
Yeah, you got to let go.
Once it's done, you do your best work and then you let it go, and you're not hung up on, you know, valuing yourself on the outcomes of that. You just let it go.
Absolutely right. And that's what you do with articles. That's what you do with books and everything. But you've got to give it everything, Jess, because you'll have regrets if you know you could have worked harder. Right, this is old Nana speaking now. If you knew you gave it a bit of a, you slopped about a bit, you were a bit random, you had to go, not too bothered, and you know that, and you submitted that, and other humans spent 4 days of their life assessing, the slop in your bucket, you have to deal with that. Whereas if you gave it everything, I wish you well, let it go, and you've been respectful of colleagues' time. I think that's because the PhD is about the examiners, it's not about you. Ooh. So I hope we've helped a little bit there, Maeve. We've got, oh my goodness me, 3 questions. We might only get to 2, noting the time, but can we go to Gay? Gay, talk to us.
I just wanted to go back to the book reviews.
Yes, exciting.
Very quick question. It's just a really silly question. How long does it take to write a book review?
Hardly any time. Write a book review, you can in-out, if you're up for it, in-out, shake it all about, it can be done in 3 hours. So a book review, most are about 1,000 words, 1,500 words, in-out, shake it all about, right? You're up for it, you're interested in the area, you've read the book, off you go, right? So they can be very, very quick. And for Josh, it's a very nice, quick thing to add to your CV. An article can take anyway from, if you're really up for it and you haven't got much else to do, a week. Some articles can take years. So the book review is an in-out quick win to add to an early career researcher's CV. What do you think, Gay?
Excellent, thank you.
Oh, you're the best. Now, we may run out of time, but I'll go to the amazing Julie. Julie has this impact on me. How are you, Julie? You've been the light of my week, you have.
I was having a side conversation with Josh. I was also coming back to the book review just to say that as a student, I found some of them, particularly the essays, really useful in my thinking, where am I headed? What am I trying to say? How are other people saying it? And the reviewer's point of view is as important as the book review, because eventually you see, okay, this person's point of view is that direction, and I agree with it or I don't, but it helps you think through your thinking. Anyway, so I'm very grateful for book reviews.
Oh, and Julie, you're absolutely right. It scaffolds interpretations. And that's why you do pick up the sites, Josh. So if you've actually, here's a great book, and you know what, you've offered a really innovative lens on it, people will cite your lens. So Jules, you keep citing that. That's brilliant. And look, last 2 minutes, we're into the wonderful, beautiful Susan, who's joining us from Late Night Jamaica. Hi, Susan.
Right. I'm in a car as a passenger. Yeah, we won't have time, but I wanted to go back to the getting paid for speaking.
Yeah.
So, for example, I get paid. I mean, I'm a lecturer, so I get paid for speaking.
Yeah.
But let's just take within the last year, like I talked to my colleagues, and one of my new colleagues said to me, I was trying to be inspiring, in the particular presentation to colleagues, and he said, I was talking to 2 or 3 of us, and I said, I want to be a motivational speaker, and he's like, so what are you doing about it? So back to, I would ask you, what could I do to get paid for speaking? Sorry, I don't get paid much at my job for speaking. So I think that I really like speaking. And what could I do?
Right. So the key is to scaffold it in some fashion, Susan. So you are a magnificent speaker. What I would start to do is do little 2 or 5 minutes of digital vignettes on your own YouTube channel. So that's a great example of a freemium, a free product that leads to a premium product. Do that and say yes. In the first few years, you've got to say yes to gigs, but then also be very clear when people ask you to do a speech for them, say, what is your available fee? Come back with the question. I know it's uncomfortable. We all want to do the right thing by people, but I'd always say, Susan, right. So thank you very much for the opportunity. What fee is available?
I like that.
Yeah. And just because if they're cheeky enough to want you to give 150 hours of your time for free, I think we're cheeky enough to say, give me a couple hundred. Okay.
Yeah, I think in Jamaica is either free or a lot of money. I don't think there are many people who are in between.
And look, often the speaking is not, but start somewhere because something is better than nothing, Susan, and it builds through your life and through your career. It's amazing. Okay. Have we lost her?
Thank you.
Oh, you're the best, Susan. So, colleagues, what an exciting digital office hours we've done.
Thank you.
Oh, and I said thank you straight back. You're amazing. So, colleagues, we've done nothing that was our homework for this week. I have diagrams. I have all sorts of questions that have been asked of us, none of which we've answered, but we've had a fantastic time, starting with the legendary Jen, who has joined us from the Death Star. We thank you, Jen, for your expertise. Colleagues, I'll see many of you in Right Club. Kylie, I want to be you. Let's do taxonomy together as a family. Yeah, nah. Colleagues, see you in Right Club. You're the best. Bye-bye. Love you, Liam. Sleep well, my darling. Love you. Bye-bye.